Hello. So you're a struggling language learner. You have tried to learn a foreign language and you're more or less at the beginning level, meaning you are not able to understand simple conversation yet. You can't really express yourself or read books or write, but you have been studying the language and you're looking for a good method. And so I have found a very good method. It's given by a man named Luca on YouTube, and I'll put a link to his videos. But I'm giving you a little bit of a summary, and he calls this method bidirectional translation. What bidirectional translation involves is first becoming familiar with a simple piece of content. So I have chosen a nice book by Haruki Murakami, his very famous book, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And it was written in Japanese, then translated to English. So I have a PDF of it in English. So I use that PDF as a resource because it gives me a quick understanding of what the Vietnamese means. And so I have one page I just printed here. And then, of course, I have the book in Vietnamese, which is this book. And so I'm starting down here on this page here where I have a lot of notes in pencil. It's the same text in Vietnamese. In this book, Murakami is talking about when he first became a professional writer. He was running a bar and he was coming home very late and trying to write his books late at night. And in this text, I will just give you a very brief example of how to do the bidirectional translation. So the first thing is to get an understanding of it. You have to choose something that is fairly comprehensible already. And so when I read this in Vietnamese, to me it's fairly comprehensible. Điều hạnh phúc nhất khi trở thành nhà văn chuyên nghiệp là tôi có thể ngủ sớm, dậy sớm. Okay, so I understand what that means. But of course, one of the reasons I understand is that I already read it in English. The happiest thing about becoming a professional writer was that I could go to bed early and get up early. So I've gone through this text and I've compared every sentence. And I've written, like I showed you, lots of notes on the Vietnamese text in Vietnamese and in English, mainly in English, to let me know what these words mean. Okay, so I've done this for like one paragraph. So at this point, I know the material pretty well. And I am able now to take the English text and put it away. I don't need to look at it for now. And I take my notebook and I write, and I've already done it here, see, I write my version of the story in English. So that's the first step of bidirectional translation. You just take a short passage, translate it to your native language from the target language. So I translated from Vietnamese to English. I wrote it in my notebook. But writing it in the notebook is really important. Like I said in one of my previous videos, this is paper-based learning. You have to have a pen and a notebook so that you can keep track of what you're doing, when you did it, and you use your native language to guide you through learning the target language. So this becomes a very valuable resource, this passage that I've written in my own words in English. So I wrote it, and it's the happiest thing about becoming a professional writer was that I could go to bed early and get up early, and so on. So I wrote it in English. Now I come back tomorrow, and I'm going to try to translate the English back to Vietnamese. But of course, that's much more difficult than translating to English, because now I will have to know a lot of vocabulary, and I won't be relying on my printout in English anymore, or my notes in English on the Vietnamese text. Now I will be simply trying to speak a translation. So I'm preparing for the final step, which will be to write a translation. But it will be easier for me to speak a translation because I will actually try it, and then if I can't remember some things, I'm just going to read it in Vietnamese. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to just read it in Vietnamese because I know tomorrow, or the next day, the following day, I'm going to be trying to write it in Vietnamese. Okay, so I would come back the next day and I would read this sentence, and then I would say, what would this be? Yeah, điều hạnh phúc nhất khi trở thành một nhà vận chuyển nghiệp là tôi có thể đi ngủ sớm, dậy sớm. Okay, so I got it pretty much word for word. If I didn't, I could refer to the Vietnamese, and as you can see here, I pretty much got it correct, right? Okay, this is the first sentence here. Yeah. Okay. Then I would come back the final day and I would write it down in Vietnamese. Then of course, I can compare it with the book that I have in Vietnamese. And that's the final step of bidirectional translation. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.